Welcome back to Crypto Equation. And today, we are stepping into a question that has been quietly circulating inside both the crypto world and the institutional world, as digital finance evolves faster than most people can follow. Because when you hear the phrase 3000 XRP, the real meaning is not in a number and not in a price, but in a position inside a global transformation that is reshaping the architecture of money itself. People often misunderstand what it means to hold an asset connected to digital infrastructure, but the truth is far deeper, because in the world that is coming, the world of instant settlement tokenized finance and real-time value movement assets like XRP are not merely speculative instruments. They are components in a system that is being rebuilt from the ground up. And when you understand that system, you understand why 3000 XRP represents something far more powerful than quantity. It represents alignment with the direction the world is taking. To understand why, you must first understand the concept behind the word dominate in the context of digital finance, because it does not mean taking over markets or defeating competitors. It means becoming foundational, becoming essential, becoming integrated into the background machinery that powers global value movement. Dominance in digital finance is not about price, it is about relevance. It is about infrastructure. It is about becoming the invisible rail beneath the surface of a financial world that soon will not resemble the one we know today. XRP sits inside this conversation because it was created not to be a trophy for traders, but a tool for the next era of settlement. This is where you begin to see the bigger picture. For decades, global finance has rested on slow, fragmented systems that were never designed for a digital world. The foundation was built for the 20th century, not the 21st. Settlement takes days, communication is delayed, compliance is inefficient, and liquidity becomes trapped in isolated pockets around the world. Institutions have tolerated this system because they had no alternative. Now they have one. And digital settlement rails, like the one XRP operates on, represent the beginning of a new financial structure, one built for speed, scale, connectivity, and efficiency. So when someone holds 3000 XRP, they are not just holding a digital asset. They are holding a piece of that system. They are holding a stake in the digital settlement era. And the question of how 3000 XRP could dominate digital finance becomes a question of how digital finance itself is transforming right now. Because dominance in this context means being part of the rails that the world begins to rely on. Now let us go deeper into the psychology behind being early. Every major shift in financial history begins quietly, with people who understand the transformation before it becomes visible. These people are not guessing, they are observing. They see slow patterns others ignore. They see institutional movement beneath public silence. They see that when old systems begin to break, new systems emerge before anyone realizes it. And when you hold 3000 XRP, you are aligning yourself with a system that many institutions have studied for years. This is why the conversation is powerful, because institutions do not study assets without reason. They analyze purpose, function, scalability, and systemic potential. They evaluate which technologies fit into their long-term architecture. And XRP is one of the digital assets that was designed for high-level functionality. It was engineered for movement, not stagnation, for speed, not delay, for global interoperability, not local isolation. So when someone holds 3000 XRP, they are connected to a design purpose that extends far beyond speculation. To see the full picture, you must understand the convergence happening between digital assets and traditional finance. The world is entering a phase where digital assets will no longer live on the edges of financial systems. They will become integrated into it. Money itself is being converted into digital form. Assets are being tokenized. Settlement will move to real-time channels. Systems will communicate across borders instantly, and institutions will rely on new rails to operate within this environment. XRP fits into this picture because it was designed specifically for the movement of value across global networks, in a world where speed, transparency, and liquidity efficiency become non-negotiable. This is why some people say that 3000 XRP represents a position inside a future financial architecture, rather than a speculative bet. The quantity itself means less than the alignment with the system that is emerging. Now let us move into something that many people overlook, the significance of standardization. Digital finance will not operate on hundreds of different systems. It will converge, it will unify, it will standardize. Institutions do not want chaos. They want reliability, they want predictability, they want systems that integrate smoothly with existing models. This is where XRP's architecture matters. It is not built to replace the financial system, it is built to connect it. When a digital asset becomes part of a standardized system, it becomes part of the background machinery that runs quietly behind every payment and settlement transaction. And if that system grows globally, assets connected to it become essential. They become part of the next generation financial framework. This is where the idea of dominance begins to take shape, not in speculation, but in integration. 3000 XRP becomes a representation of presence inside that integrated system. But to truly understand how this works, you must understand the deeper forces that drive financial transformation. Transformation does not begin with people. It begins with inefficiencies. It begins with friction. It begins with problems that become too big to ignore. And today, the global financial system faces many such problems. Cross-border settlement is slow. Liquidity is fragmented. Payment systems are outdated. Compliance models are inefficient. Operating costs have become extreme. These pressures push institutions to seek new solutions. XRP's design addresses many of these pressures. It offers speed. It offers efficiency. It offers connectivity. It offers interoperability. It fits into a world that is shifting from slow movement of value to instant movement of value. That is why discussions emerge around its potential relevance in the new financial era. Not because of hype, but because of function. Now let us explore the emotional dimension, because this is where the meaning behind 3000 XRP becomes powerful. People who hold this amount are not simply holding a digital asset. They are holding a form of early understanding. They understood before the world recognized the transformation. They saw patterns that others dismissed. They aligned with a system not because it was popular, but because it was necessary. And necessity is the force that shapes the future. 3000 XRP becomes symbolic. It becomes a reminder that digital finance is not about sudden spikes or temporary excitement. It is about long-term infrastructure that grows stronger with time. It is about systems that become critical to global operations. It is about alignment with financial evolution. Now let us examine global context, because global context determines the future of digital finance more than any chart ever will. Around the world, governments are building digital currencies. Central banks are modernizing payment rails. Corporations are tokenizing assets. International organizations are shaping cross-border frameworks. All of these developments point toward one thing: the world is preparing for a digital financial system. In such a system, assets that support interoperability and settlement become crucial. XRP fits this need because of its architecture. And people holding 3,000 units of it are positioned inside the early stages of that transformation. This leads us into the next insight: the idea of being connected to ecosystem growth. Ecosystems grow through adoption, infrastructure, and integration. They become more powerful each time a new institution participates, each time a new system connects, each time a new use case emerges. Traditional investments rely on buying low and selling high. Digital ecosystem participation is different. It is about being part of a network whose relevance expands over time. 3000 XRP fits into this concept because it represents a presence in an ecosystem that is aligning with global transformation. Now let us examine the evolution of financial technology. Financial technology has always evolved in waves. First comes connectivity, then comes automation, then comes digitization, then comes integration, then comes dominance of the new system. Digital assets are moving through these phases. XRP is emerging from the integration phase into the relevance phase, where its design aligns with the needs of global settlement. This reveals the deeper meaning behind the question of dominance. Dominance in digital finance is not about being the most popular asset. It is about being the most integrated asset. It is about fitting into the infrastructure the world uses. It is about serving a function the world depends on. It is about becoming invisible because the system relies on you. And in that context, holding 3000 XRP becomes meaningful from a long-term perspective. Now let us explore one more essential idea before we transition into part 2: the convergence of digital rails. The world will not operate separate systems for digital payments, digital currencies, tokenized assets, and cross-border transfers. It will merge them. It will unify them. The systems that support this convergence will become foundational. XRP's design aligns with this unified model. It was created to move value across networks in a world where networks must become interoperable. If global systems converge, XRP stands in a position of significant relevance. This is why the narrative around 3000 XRP exists, not because of future value, not because of prediction, but because of significance, relevance, alignment, and participation in a financial transformation the world is only beginning to recognize. The second half of this cinematic deep dive will explore the psychological meaning, institutional expansion, global settlement evolution, and the real reason 3000 XRP is connected to conversations about the future of digital finance. Because the deeper you go into the architecture of digital finance, the more you realize that the significance of holding 3000 XRP has nothing to do with guessing outcomes and everything to do with understanding where the world is heading at a structural level. The people who grasp this shift early understand something profound. The financial system of the future will not be defined by speculation, but by infrastructure. It will not be defined by charts, but by rails. It will not be defined by volatility, but by interoperability. It will be defined by the systems the world relies on and the value that flows through them. And in that context, holding 3,000 XRP becomes an act of alignment with the architecture of tomorrow. To understand this alignment fully, you must understand how institutional adoption works. Institutions do not adopt technology because it is exciting. They adopt it because it solves a problem. They adopt it because it fits into regulatory frameworks. They adopt it because it improves efficiency. They adopt it because it reduces risk. They adopt it because it prepares them for the next era of global operations. When institutions begin acknowledging a digital asset like XRP, they are acknowledging that the system behind it has relevance. They are acknowledging that the future of value movement may rely on rails different from the ones used today. This acknowledgement changes the meaning of holding 3,000 XRP. It transforms it from a simple quantity into a position within a system institutions are beginning to recognize. And once institutional recognition begins, even quietly, the trajectory of that system becomes more powerful than speculation. It becomes part of financial evolution. Now let us examine something most people overlook: the difference between market dominance and infrastructure dominance. Market dominance is temporary, it shifts rapidly. It fluctuates. But infrastructure dominance lasts for decades. It becomes baked into the foundation of global systems. It becomes invisible because it becomes normal. And XRP was designed not for market dominance, but for infrastructure relevance. It is built to move liquidity across networks efficiently. It is built to fit into a world where digital connectivity defines economic success. Holding 3,000 XRP in this context means having exposure to a system that could sit beneath the surface of global value movement, not as a guarantee, but as a possibility shaped by architecture. The people who understand this focus on what the world needs rather than what the market wants. The world needs faster settlement. The world needs instant global liquidity. The world needs interoperable digital rails. The world needs systems that can connect digital currencies across borders. The world needs infrastructure that reduces friction and increases transparency. Assets built for these needs gain relevance in digital finance. And the people holding 3,000 XRP are holding a piece of the architecture designed to meet those needs. Now let us examine global settlement more deeply, because global settlement is the core of financial modernization. Today, settlement takes days. This delay costs institutions billions in trapped liquidity. It increases risk. It slows trade. It limits economic growth. The global economy cannot expand smoothly with settlement rails designed decades ago. The world needs new rails, digital rails, instant rails. XRP fits into this conversation because it facilitates real-time settlement across networks. This function gives it relevance in a digital economy where speed and automation become essential. People holding 3,000 XRP are connected to this shift, whether they realize it or not. They hold something aligned with the settlement needs of the future, not because of predictions, but because of the direction. Technology is forcing the world to move. Now let us explore the deeper psychology behind being early in a system transition. It feels different from being early in a market cycle. A market cycle is emotional, volatile, reactive. A system transition is quiet, methodical, slow, until it suddenly accelerates. During system transitions, the majority of people do not see what is happening. They are distracted by noise. They focus on short-term movements. They overlook long-term signals. But early observers see patterns forming beneath the surface. They see institutions exploring digital rails. They see governments modernizing their currencies. They see payment networks upgrading infrastructure. They see major financial bodies aligning on digital frameworks. They see the inevitability of instant settlement. They see the world moving toward interoperability. This recognition is what gives 3,000 XRP its psychological power. Because when you hold something aligned with a future system shift, you are participating in the transition itself, even if the world has not yet fully realized the magnitude of that shift. Now let us go deeper into digital finance evolution, because evolution is not linear. It happens in bursts, and those bursts are often triggered by institutional milestones, a legal decision, a regulatory framework, a settlement upgrade, a new payment corridor, a major partnership, a government announcement, an ETF approval. Each of these milestones accelerates the adoption curve, and every time the curve accelerates, the significance of infrastructure-aligned assets increases. 3,000 XRP becomes a symbol of being positioned inside that acceleration, not because of certainty, not because of prophecy, but because of awareness. Awareness is the most valuable currency in a system transition. The people who understand the shift early are the ones aligned with the direction history is taking. Now let us explore one of the most important ideas of all the difference between being exposed to an asset and being connected to a system. Traditional finance teaches people to think about exposure, how much you own, when you sell, when you exit. But digital finance teaches people to think about connection. 3000 XRP is not simply exposure, it is connection. Connection to a network built for global settlement. Connection to a system aligned with the needs of digital finance. Connection to an architecture that institutions are evaluating. Connection to the next evolution of value movement. This connection is the real meaning behind the title of this video. Not that XRP will dominate, but that the system it supports could play a significant role in digital finance, and holding 3,000 units represents a position inside that system. Now let us examine global liquidity, because liquidity is the lifeblood of global commerce. For decades, liquidity has been fragmented across borders, locked inside slow systems, hindered by outdated rails. The digital world cannot operate effectively if liquidity remains trapped. It needs to flow. Digital liquidity must be instant. Digital liquidity must be global. Digital liquidity must be efficient. Digital liquidity must be programmable. Digital liquidity must be interoperable. This is why systems designed for settlement are becoming important. And this is why some people say that assets like XRP have relevance in the digital future, because their purpose aligns with the global liquidity model the world is shifting toward. 3000 XRP becomes meaningful because it connects someone to this liquidity evolution, not because of promised outcomes, but because of connection to infrastructure. Let us now explore something that few people understand, the quiet role of institutional pilots. Institutions rarely announce pilots publicly. They test privately. They run simulations. They explore corridors. They experiment with new rails. These pilots shape decisions long before the public sees anything. The presence of institutional experiments in the world of digital settlement indicates that the system shift is already underway. People who hold XRP understand this pattern. They see that institutions are preparing for something bigger than the market realizes. They see that digital settlement is not optional but inevitable. They see that assets aligned with settlement systems are positioned for relevance in the next era. This brings powerful meaning to holding 3000 XRP. Now let us approach the emotional heart of this story, the idea of standing at the edge of financial history. Every major transformation in how the world moves value begins with a small group of people who understand what is coming before the world reacts. 3000 XRP is not about prediction, it is about position. It is about participating in a transformation. It is about being present during a moment in history where the world is quietly rebuilding the architecture of money. And now we arrive at the truth behind the idea of dominance in digital finance. Digital finance will not be dominated by hype. It will be dominated by architecture. It will be dominated by the systems the world uses every day without noticing. It will be dominated by efficiency, not speculation. And assets aligned with those systems become part of the background machinery of global value movement. In that context, holding 3000 XRP means being aligned with the infrastructure side of digital finance, not because of guarantees, but because of design. This is the real meaning behind the question of how 3000 XRP could dominate digital finance. It is not about conquering markets. It is about connecting to the rails the world will rely on. It is about understanding the shift before the masses. It is about standing on the edge of the next financial era with awareness instead of uncertainty. 3000 XRP is a symbol of early participation. It is a reminder that you are connected to a system that may shape global value movement. It is a reflection of the understanding that digital finance is not just coming, it is already unfolding, and the world is moving toward it faster than anyone expected. The people holding 3000 XRP are not predicting the future. They are preparing for it. They are aligned with the transformation. They are part of the shift, and they are present in a moment where financial history is being rewritten in real time, even if most of the world has not realized it yet. The second half of this cinematic deep dive will explore the psychological meaning, institutional expansion, global settlement evolution, and the real reason 3000 XRP is connected to conversations about the future of digital finance.